So within the left, or the anti-capitalist side of political discourse, and yes, I know left means nothing, I know, but fucking just, I don't give a shit, just for the fucking, just, oh my god.
My name is Jeff. Anarchy is a hot topic on the left. And that's anarchy meaning without rulers or without hierarchy, not, ANCAP, no state type deal. Anarchy is more than just not having a government. Although, it really isn't. I mean, that's like kind of the deal, but it's more complicated than that. Now, this isn't really a new phenomenon, people making fun of anarchists or not taking it seriously. Anarchists have been persecuted by just about everyone throughout history, whether it be liberals, Marxists, socialists of every kind, conservatives and fascists. Essentially all those who praise the state, whether it be for some kind of justifiable ends for their means or just for the sake of it being some kind of protector. They have all oppressed anarchists and continuously seen us as lesser and in the way. They hate us for our utopianism, our idealism, our ineptitude, and whatever else bullshit they want to spew from their mouths. A huge misconception that I'm often faced with as an anarchist, and the point of this video, is that anarchism is some kind of unnecessary departure. As communists and socialists of all sorts, they think that they seek to achieve the same thing as us, a classless, stateless, moneyless society characterized by free association, common ownership of production, and the abolition of private property. All good things and things we do agree on. But that doesn't actually even scratch the surface of what anarchism is really about. Anarchists do not exist purely because we want communism but now. There are too many anarchists for that to be a thing anyway. We don't all want communism. Anarchists exist not because we want communism but now, but because we believe that some kind of scientific process using the state and hierarchy is unnecessary, unachievable, and just won't work and hasn't. It isn't that many of us don't believe in some sort of transitory period or transition. We do, it's just that our transition isn't that of the scientifics. Our transition happens without the state, without the counter-revolutionary organ that is the state. And that transition isn't what the state tries to create. We aren't trying to create this long-winded transition into communism. It's more like just slowly getting people into anarchism, and not into and like, oh, this is really cool, but like actually like bringing people into like communities and growing anarchism. Anarchists believe that individuals can begin immediately holding autonomy in their lives, and that they can freely associate within groups, anarchist groups. Like, sure, you can freely associate into a tanky group before it takes power, but once it does, you can no longer freely associate. Anarchy won't have a bureaucracy, a transitory bureaucracy, dictating where we belong and when and why and how. Because individuals are and always have been perfectly capable of making their own decisions. In fact, during, before, and after government is around, people are, and always will be capable of freely associating and participating in things that they need to get by. We wouldn't be here if we weren't able to survive without the state. The state is a new thing, as Enrico Malatesta says in Anarchy. For instance, the government takes over the responsibilities of postal services, the railways, and so on. But in what way does it help those services? When the people are unable to enjoy them and feel the need for these services, they think about organizing them, and the technicians don't need a government license to get to work. And the more the need is universal and urgent, the more volunteers there will be to carry it out. If the people had the power to deal with the problems of production and food supplies, have no fear that they might just die of hunger waiting for the government to make the necessary laws to deal with the problem. If there had to be a government, it would still be obliged to wait until the people had organized everything in order to then come along with laws to sanction and exploit what they had already done. In other words, governments just come in and take what's already been created by freely associating individuals. Without the government, all of that stuff that Enrico Malatesta talked about, all of those necessary structures for communication and existence within society would still take place. People would still organize them, just without a hierarchical government coming in to reap the benefits and exploit and plunder it. Government, which can never be for a majority or for the people, but only ever for a privileged class upholding the state to impose their will, seeks to use the ideas and structures from other people for their own, to justify and continue their rule. They let issues be tried and tested before taking it and making it theirs. Government exists only to steal and plunder the minds and bodies of those it rules and oppresses. Liberation cannot be achieved until it is abolished. And one of the fucked up parts of this conversation about anarchism and the departure of it from communism is that Lenin himself, the tanky incarnate, believed also that liberation and liberty could not ever be achieved until the state was abolished. He, like many other anarchists, he, like many other tankies, don't believe that liberation can be achieved under the state. They're just misguided and believe that the state will eventually be able to abolish itself through making one big proletariat. And it's misguided. It's foolish. And with the current track of the environmental state of our world, it's nonsensical. The idea that all people can be workers and that we can continue industrial production not only at the rate that it's going, but to make it larger and bigger and better, which is what many communists want, which is what every communist state has sought to achieve, and what pretty successfully they had done. Like the USSR had their 5-year or 10-year plans or whatever, and China the same thing, very quickly becoming industrial magnets. But what does that do for the people? What does that do for the environment, which if we kill, will kill all of us? It does nothing. And it hasn't done anything of material value for anybody or anything. It's another issue I have as an anarchist is, even if we want to achieve this large-scale industrial thing, and the transitory state or the transitionary state is the only way to do it, how is that a good thing? Because all it does is destroy the environment. All it does is destroy our life source. You're essentially just saying the best thing we can do is allow an authoritarian regime to continue to reign over us until we all die. That's essentially the communist view at this point, because before they weren't worried about the environment and communist states just destroyed it. They didn't care about the environment because it's all about humans and nothing has anything to do with animals or, the shit that actually is going to keep us alive. Case in point, Mao and the crows or the ravens or whatever. And maybe that's not a real story, but maybe it's CIA propaganda, but it feels like a really weird thing for the CIA to make up. As anarchists, we don't believe in anyone's right but the direct will of the people to create a better world, to even create a better community. I don't believe in a ruler of 20 people. Those 20 people have the agency and the ability to rule themselves, and not in an American for the people, by the people way. In a, we are going to all have a say in what is going on directly. Whether that be direct democracy or individualist fucking cooperation, it doesn't matter. Whatever kind of anarchist you are, if you're watching this, I don't care. I'm not saying that direct democracy is exactly what we need, or fucking individualist mutual aid is all we need. I'm just saying we all deserve a direct say in how things are run. I think as anarchists, that's a pretty universal thing. If it's not, leave a comment and tell me that I'm a piece of shit, whatever. As anarchists, we don't believe in the dictatorship of the proletariat. We certainly don't approve of the Vanguard, which is kind of the worst of the dictatorships of the dictatorship of the proletariats, the DOTPs, the Vanguard. We reject imposed will, and we reject the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism or Marxism, whatever the fucking saying is. I reject it. I think anarchists in general reject your immortal science. your somehow immortal science on our dying world when humans are able to be murdered. It's, we could all die off. I don't feel like Marxism has much weight if every human is dead, but, go off, girly, whatever. We as anarchists reject authority in all forms. We reject government. We reject bureaucracy. We seek not just the abolition of class, but of power relations and hierarchy, of all centralization of power. I think that stands for itself. I think that makes plenty of sense. We as anarchists don't believe in hierarchy. Get that into your fucking heads. As anarchists, we build what we wish upon society, or destroy what we dislike about society. There are two sides to anarchism, and anarcho-pacifists can go fucking jerk it. I don't care. So here's my list of all the different ideologies. I wrote this, I think 2 years ago, which is kind of wild because it's just been sitting in my notes, and now I'm trying to make a video on it, but... We anarchists build what we wish upon society in present. An anarcho-communist seeks to build communes and organizations with the aim of community and mutual aid. Anarchist squatters deny the authority and lie of housing as a commodity. Mutualists build co-opted workplaces and fight within the markets in non-hierarchical firms. I myself am not really much of a market socialist, but when I wrote this, I was really feeling my anarchist unity shit, so I'll continue. Anti-civs and nihilists work in affinity groups and fight against centralized technology and spend more of their time on the front lines getting revenge on behalf of the planet. That's very much true. I feel like I still agree with that. Most nihilists and anti-civs, they kind of just go with the idea of everything's fucked to get revenge, and that's awesome, and we need that. We do. And the constant debate of Murray Bookchinite communalist fucking lifestyle anarchists versus social anarchists, like, fucking stop. It's fucking annoying. Now, everything I've listed, that's not everything that anarchy has to offer. There's fucking plenty more. There's so many anarchists. Like I said, there are anarcho-pacifists, so that, just so you know, there's a lot of us. There's also anarcho-capitalists. I have a few videos on my page about them. They suck. They're bad. Anarcho-capitalists are the worst. Now, yeah, that's not everything anarchy has to offer. There's plenty more, but this gives a general idea of how anarchists seek anarchy in organization and in direct action. I'm just trying to give an idea of the many different kinds of us there are. A good general idea to go off of, though, is that all anarchists believe in mutual aid. And if you don't, I don't know if you're actually an anarchist. Which I'll link a video to an Andrewism video about mutual aid if you want to check that out. I'm not going to get into it in this video. I can maybe make a video on it in the future if you guys want me to do that, but the Andrewism video is really good. Definitely suggest it. In fact, just in general, go check out Andrewism. I would also like to point out that I do not advocate any one example ideology I used. Rather, I just wish to explain how anarchists seek liberation. If it's genuinely anarchist in principle, it's safe to assume that I take little issue with it. The point I'm making here is that anarchists don't just vote and pray. So with all those ideologies I listed out, how communists build mutual aid networks and shit, and mutual aid or mutualists build fucking worker co-ops and shit, and yada yada. My point is that we don't just vote. A lot of state socialists, I think, come from the perspective of just voting and hoping something happens, or maybe working with an organization. But anarchists rely fully on organization, or if not on that, then on direct action. And we don't vote. And if you do vote as an anarchist, cool, I guess. Fucking vote, sure. But it doesn't do anything. And in fact, in many ways justifies the power of the people that oppress us. And so I disapprove of it. If I vote for Biden and then he does a bunch of fucked up shit, I kind of helped do that, didn't I? If we actually believe that voting does something. So there's two sides to it. Either voting does nothing, or it does do something and you are actively supporting something that hurts us. Voting is a no-win situation. Anarchy is not the idealism of our future, as it is with a state socialist or communist. As it is with a state socialist or communist, or the scientific. But the reality that all people wishing to circumvent the state are able to do so with solidarity. Most anarchists aren't trying to say that we can all circumvent the state individually and the world will change. It's not how it works. But if we all together are working to circumvent the state and we fuck shit up and build new shit, I think a lot of good would come from that, and that's what anarchists generally believe. Anarchy allows the escape from capitalism in present, a truly revolutionary form of self-governance. Again, not like the American idealized version of self-governance or any kind of, what do we call this, a democratic republic, any kind of republican or democratic government. Not saying that kind of self-governed shit, self-governance. We want a new polis and a liberated people. I mentioned polis to throw the communalists a bone. If you don't fuck with it, just keep watching the video. If you don't like communalists, I don't care. And if communalists don't like that I mentioned anti-civs, please go fuck yourself. Just fucking let one rip. I fucking cannot care less. The acceptance of authority of any kind. Authority of expertise is not authority. Rather than the acceptance of ideas, acting in solidarity, void of hierarchical organization. Fuck, I can spell hierarchy. I've seen this like meme a lot where it's like people can't spell hierarchy. I can spell it perfectly, but I can't fucking pronounce it. Hierarchy. There we go. I said it there, but in a sentence it's like, fuck me. The acceptance of authority of any kind. Authority of expertise is not authority. Rather than the acceptance of ideas, acting in solidarity, void of hierarchical organization, have been and will continue to be the downfall of our liberation. Well said, Pinarchives. Pinarchist. Well said. Okay, again, sticking to the script here. Means and ends is a popular subject within anarchist spheres, anarchist literature, and it's essentially the idea of looking to what you might want in the future or what you want soon and thinking, how do I get there? So if you want a stateless, classless, moneyless society, and you're thinking, how do I get to a stateless, classless, moneyless society? Means affect the ends. If you do one thing to a person for an extended period of time, especially in a developing phase, they will likely start to do the same thing to other people. That is how behavior works. Again, it's not set in stone, and there are genetic factors and other environmental factors. I'm not trying to simplify it right now. I'm just trying to give an idea of means and ends. If we do one thing to achieve another thing, the thing we did to achieve the other thing matters. Do we abolish money by making money stronger and more important? Do we abolish socioeconomic class by making the upper classes stronger? Do we destroy the state by making the state bigger and more centralized? No. You abolish each, get this, by abolishing them. Whoa. Yo, hold your horses. Hold your horses. Pinarchist, are you saying that if you want something to go away, you don't increase it? You abolish each by abolishing them, like I said. Not fortifying them with a new currency, a new upper class, or a workers' state, a more centralized workers' state. Doesn't make sense. You have to be uncompromisingly against these institutions and spread that idea and create systems which hold that idea, which is scary. I get it. What if we fail? What if we don't have the power to achieve a world free from domination and hierarchy, against a world free from money and the sins of capitalism? You know, how do we achieve that? You know, it's like, what if we fail this non-hierarchical way, you know? Which one? Just tell me this. Tell me this. Would it be better to fall as equals or to fight below an ideological leader only to have their position be corrupted and used to destroy everything you worked for? Would you rather have the enemy? Would you rather the enemy stay the enemy, whether you triumph or not? Or would you rather your friends and comrades become the enemy regardless of win or loss? Forgot a key part at that end. But again with a Malatesta quote from Anarchy! Exclamation point. And if today we fall without compromising, we can be sure of victory tomorrow. Arguably one of my favorite anarchist quotes of all time. I used it for a long time. Like, LARPing-ass anarchist on Instagram, just fucking throwing that quote everywhere I could. Because it's an amazing quote. I love it. The idea that if we don't just compromise and create these movements of hierarchical power, If we instead just actually go for what we want, we actually just full fucking send, go for what we want to see in society. You know, if we fall, we'll fall a time or two, but eventually, as we grow, we will achieve victory. You know, whether those victories ever actually take over the world, it doesn't matter, because as long as you and the people you love find yourself free and in gray zones and in liberated zones, and I don't know, it's just, I think it's better, even in the small spaces, if we never achieve global revolution, as Desert has talked about. Just the small areas that we get wins, it matters. Not because it's another step forward toward global revolution, especially during this impending climate catastrophe, but because working together is beautiful, and creating something void of the government is beautiful. The world's not going to become anarchist by any means if we go by Desert's prediction. You know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But why fight for a government? Why fight for a government when we know it's not going to matter anyway? Why not fight for the people around you? It just makes more sense in my opinion. But, you know, again, go off. And to get rid of the desert pill for a second, again, I wrote this like 2 or 3 years ago. To achieve a liberated world, we must fall many times. But it is the failure to compromise that will liberate us, not some scientific process made in the early 1800s by white men. Okay, and we're done with the script, but I have this thing at the end that I wrote. I'm kind of glossing over it. Okay. Briefly, even though he spends much of his time slobbing on Marx's knob in it, true, I'd recommend you watch Anarch's series, The State is Counter-Revolutionary, for a more in-depth analysis against the state. However, it is very focused on Leninism and Maoism, rather than conventional Marxism. In fact, much of it is just a critique of the authoritarian departure of Marx, instead of an overarching critique of Marxism. So it's like, it's low-key a statist video. Anti-authoritarian communism is essentially what the video is. But in fact, there's a lot of good material diving deeper into the ideas I briefly discussed in this video, a few of which I've linked in the description, all of which I used to make this video, or not this video, but used to write the script way back when I wrote it. So that's the video. If you want to check out my other shit, I might still have an Insta. I'll link it if I do. Same thing with Twitter. I think I have a political Twitter. I don't remember. And then you can look at my sources, which are just other videos that people made. And then I'll link Anarchy by Malatesta in the description below. Do check that out. Really good read, especially if you're a baby anarchist. And that doesn't mean stick to anarcho-communism. Please, if you're an anarchist, read other types of anarchist theory. I actually want to read a passage. I want to read a passage from Desert right now. So this is going to be a quote from Crime Think. Here, let me hold this up so you can see that I own a copy of Desert. We are anarcho-syndicalists on the shop floor, green anarchists in the woods, social anarchists in our communities, individualists when you catch us alone, anarcho-communists when there's something to share, insurrectionists when we strike a blow. It feels goofy that I'm even making a video right now on what anarchism is, because it's like, you can't do that. It's like, anarchism is such a complex thing, and it doesn't look like it. It just looks like another fucking leftist communist ideology, but it isn't. There's so many anarchists and so many ideas in anarchism. It's too hard to put into one video, and so that's why I'm going to link shit if you want to look at that. If you're just learning about anarchism and this is like you looking up anarchism and you found this video, don't trust ANCAPs. Go into anarchism with an open mind. If you're new to it. And if you're an anarchist and you disagreed with something I said in this video, shoot me a comment. You can DM me on either whatever socials I put in the description below. Fucking DM me your arguments. And remember, anarchy is cool. Anarchy's rad, guys. Be an anarchist.